If you've been watching my Weird NASCAR Rumors series, you'll know that in the early 2000s, Kevin Harvick was frequently talked about in the silly season rumor mill, and one of the most sought after drivers in NASCAR at the time. So, for episode 2 of Missed Opportunities, I wanted to take a little deeper of a dive into Kevin Harvick's career and talk about some of the opportunities that he passed on throughout his Hall of Fame career. As the 2001 season began, Kevin Harvick was already considered an up-and-coming star for Richard Childress Racing. He won the Busch Series Rookie of the Year award in 2000 and was set to compete for a Busch Series championship in 2001, while also getting the call to run 7 Cup Series races for RCR in the number 30 car. Following the loss of Dale Earnhardt, that 7 races in the 30 car would become 35 races in the 29 car. While stepping in to fill the biggest of shoes and in the worst of all possible circumstances, he finished 9th in Cup Series points, winning 2 races, the Rookie of the Year award, and also winning the Busch Series championship to go with it. But it didn't take long for the rumors about Harvick leaving RCR to begin following his rookie season. In May of 2002, the Winston-Salem Journal reported that Robert Yates wanted to sign Harvick to drive one of his Fords. Yates himself denied having talked to Harvick, and Richard Childress was clearly not pleased with the rumor and insisted that Harvick wasn't going anywhere and had another year left on his contract, in spite of some unnamed sources claiming that the relationship between the young driver and his crew was strained. It wasn't exactly difficult to believe the idea that there were strained relationships. Harvick was struggling in his sophomore season, and he had been suspended for the race at Martinsville in April, following an incident in the Truck Series race the day before. This opened the door for some games to be played, when in June, Ford drew criticism from Childress for running a story claiming that his decision to sit on top of Robbie Gordon's pit box at Pocono was a sign of a troubled relationship with Harvick. To be fair, it was the first time since 1988 that Childress had sat on the pit box of a car that was not sponsored by GM Goodwrench. Later, Childress would say that Harvick was signed through 2003 and that they were already discussing a 3-year extension, which would quiet the rumors of a departure from RCR for a couple of years. Things would not stay quiet forever, though, as in 2005, there were a bunch of rumors about Harvick leaving the 29 car, either through free agency or a trade. In 2004, Harvick had gone winless for the first time in his career, and fell short of making the inaugural chase for the Cup, so it wasn't surprising when rumors of his departure started in early 2005. As with the announcement of Rusty Wallace's retirement at season's end, Harvick was one of the first possible replacements to be named in February. Obviously, Penske's Blue Deuce was an iconic ride, fit for a driver of Harvick's talent, but Harvick denied the rumor and said that the captain never reached out to him about the ride. Harvick would find victory lane at Bristol, but as a whole, the 29 car's performance was still pretty poor, and in late August, with the possibility of missing the chase again looming large, the rumors started picking up in a big way. Speed Channel reported that Harvick himself had said that he was leaning hard on Childress to improve the team as a whole, and in regard to the idea of leaving the team, had said, quote, "I'm checking things out and really just trying to see how it all goes. We'll race to the end of the year and see what happens." It was right around this time that 3 really big rumors emerged. The first was one that I've covered in a couple of other videos, and that was the possible trade between RCR and Joe Gibbs Racing that would have seen Harvick going to the 18 car and Bobby Labonte coming back the other way to drive the 29 car. The deal was apparently agreed to by both sides, but Joe Gibbs pulled out after some comments from Harvick that he didn't like following a wreck at Bristol. And I mean, holy missed opportunity, JGR. If you want to do a bit more of a deep dive on this one, go check out my Weird NASCAR Rumors 2005 video. I also discussed it a bit in my video on Bobby Labonte's missed opportunities. As the RCR-JGR trade fell apart, 2 more rumors surfaced. The first once again involved Penske. This time, the talk was that Harvick would be in the 77 car instead of the 2 car. That would have created a super team, with Harvick teaming up with Kurt Busch and Ryan Newman. Still, while this move may have sounded great, Penske was about to go into a bit of a down period, with Penske only having 1 chase appearance over the next 3 years from 2006 to 2008, that being with Kurt Busch in 2007. Also, the 77 car always seemed to be an afterthought at Penske, but maybe that's different if Kevin Harvick is behind the wheel. The other team that was discussed was Chip Ganassi Racing. The rumor about Harvick going to Ganassi involved him replacing Jamie McMurray in the 42 car, and it surfaced right around the same time as the talk about Harvick going to the 77. We did, during this period, learn that Harvick's contract ran through the 2006 season, so no matter how much pressure Harvick put on Childress, leaving would have been quite an uphill battle for him. But that confirmation that Harvick's contract would end after the 2006 season made the rumors to come in the following year more credible. In 2006, Toyota was prepping for their entry into the Cup Series the following year, and they were looking to make a splash in the driver market and sign a big name to become the face of their new Cup program. Kevin Harvick was at the top of their wish list. Toyota was rumored to really be willing to open up the checkbook for Harvick, and there was talk that they may be willing to give support to Kevin Harvick Incorporated for a full package of truck, Busch, and Cup Series programs, something that GM did not seem willing to match. The big rumor seemed to be that Harvick was headed to either Red Bull or Michael Waltrip Racing. Red Bull seemed to want to pair a veteran driver with a young driver, so presumably the driver lineup would have been Harvick in the 83 and AJ Allmendinger in the 84. Waltrip was looking for a pair of drivers to go with his own 55 car, which eventually became a lineup of Waltrip, Dale Jarrett, and David Rudiman. Considering the talk that Toyota cut a $20 million check to sign Jarrett for their inaugural season, I would think that they were willing to pay at least as much for Harvick's services. Obviously, Jarrett is a Hall of Famer, but he was in the twilight of his career, while Harvick was at the beginning of his own Hall of Fame career. I think we can all agree that this would have been a disastrous move for Harvick in the short term, as Toyota's struggles in their first Cup Series season are well known. But whether or not it would have been a terrible move in the long term is a little bit more debatable. After all, Red Bull did win a pair of races in their 6-year run in NASCAR's top series. And who knows, perhaps with the star power of Kevin Harvick, maybe they would have stuck around, but honestly, I find that doubtful. There was also talk at this time that Harvick may be headed to the Ford camp with Roush, though Harvick denied that this was discussed. All of these rumors would be contained to the early months of the season, as by the first week in May, Harvick re-signed with RCR. The move made sense. The 29 car's performance looked improved to start the season, and he had just picked up his first win of the season at Phoenix. He would go on to win 5 races and finish 4th in points in 2006, but the 2007 Daytona 500 would be his only victory in the 3 seasons that followed, though he would finish 4th in points again in 2008 despite not winning a race. In mid-2009, in the midst of his worst season since his sophomore campaign in 2002, Harvick reportedly told Richard Childress that he wanted to be let out of his contract a year early. The talk was that Harvick wanted to go to a third Stewart-Haas car in 2010. The 29 car was obviously struggling at the time, and they were also facing the potential loss of their sponsorship from Shell Pennzoil. Harvick would have been able to bring his truck and now nationwide series teams to the fold for Stewart-Haas, much the same way that Dale Earnhardt Jr. had brought Junior Motorsports into the fold for Hendrick Motorsports a couple of years earlier. So the deal made a lot of sense for SHR, not even to mention the close personal relationship that Harvick had with Tony Stewart. Ultimately, Harvick would see through the end of his contract with RCR, and the soap opera that was Kevin Harvick and RCR's relationship would continue. The 2010 season got off to a hot start, and would end up being Harvick's best season of his time at RCR, as he would pick up wins at Talladega, Daytona, and Michigan, along with 16 top 5s, 26 top 10s, an average finish of 8.7, and a third-place finish in points. Still, it was too little, too late to save the relationship between Shell Pennzoil and RCR, as they announced in April that they would be leaving the 29 car at season's end. Still, in spite of the lack of signed sponsorship for the following year, Harvick would sign a multi-year extension with RCR a month later. The funny thing is, RCR's communications director said during the announcement press conference, quote, "multi-year agreement, No, we are not going to tell you the exact number of years. If you're noticing a pattern of RCR stepping things up when Harvick was in a contract year, you're not alone. In 2003, Harvick has a great year, resigns, and has 2 mediocre years before having a great year in 2006, and then he resigns. He did all right in 2007 and 2008, but had a terrible year in 2009, was unhappy, and then had a great year in 2010 and re-signed. There's a pattern here. Harvick would actually have a pretty good year in 2011. He had 3 wins and a third place points finish in 2011 with new sponsor Budweiser, and I actually got to be there for one of those wins in the Coke 600. The next year was just okay, and it seemed to have become clear to a then 36-year-old Harvick that RCR was never going to give him the equipment he needed to win a Cup Series championship. So, with just 2 races to go in the season, still winless and just outside the top 10 in points, news broke that Harvick had signed to drive for Stewart-Haas Racing starting in 2014, making the entire 2013 season a lame duck year for him at RCR. Also, sponsors Budweiser and Jimmy John's would be following him to SHR, so needless to say, Richard Childress wasn't exactly a happy man. The funny thing is, Harvick would pick up the win at Phoenix that same weekend and ultimately finish 8th in points. Harvick would end his tenure at RCR on a high note, winning 4 races and finishing 3rd in points in 2013. But he still wouldn't win that championship. Then, as soon as he left for SHR, he'd get that championship in his first year with the team. At this point, there's only one really big silly season rumor to tackle for Harvick, and that is the one that has often been talked about in the comments section of my videos, never actually discussed in a video, and that is the 2016 rumor that Harvick would be leaving SHR for Hendrick Motorsports' number 5 car. This stemmed from the February announcement that Stewart-Haas Racing would be switching from Chevy to Ford starting in 2017. At the time, the thought of Harvick driving a car without a Chevy bow tie was unthinkable for most people. So immediately, people started speculating that there would be a move to keep him in the Chevy stable. Obviously, he wouldn't be heading to just any Chevy team. Since joining SHR, he had 8 wins in 2 years and had points finishes of 1st and 2nd. He had to be in equipment that was equal to or greater than what he was getting at SHR, and that left one team that he could conceivably land with, Hendrick Motorsports. Casey Kane had struggled the past 2 seasons and was coming off a winless 2015 season, in which he failed to make the playoffs. So the idea of Harvick replacing Kane in the number 5 car wasn't too far-fetched in the minds of many people. Obviously, Hendrick Motorsports is a juggernaut in the sport, and he would have been in top-tier equipment. Imagine Harvick spending the last years of his career in Hendrick Motorsports equipment instead of the mediocre stuff that SHR was giving him. The only big question is, would Harvick had suffered from 4th Hendrick car syndrome, Harvick would have to spend the next 3 months denying these rumors over and over again, until finally he would sign a contract extension in May, solidifying the fact that he would indeed be driving a Ford in 2017. And he wouldn't just drive a Ford, he would thrive in a Ford. In the next 4 seasons, he would win 23 races, including 8 in 2018, and 9 in 2020. And if there was any justice in the world of racing, Harvick would have been crowned the Cup Series champion in 2020. I mean, come on. 9 wins, 20 top 5s, and he was eliminated from championship contention by a ridiculous playoff system. Granted, he wouldn't have won the 2014 championship without the playoffs, but I think that Harvick not making the championship 4 in 2020 was the moment that fans knew that the playoff system was destroying NASCAR, if they didn't already know that. Harvick would go on to spend the remainder of his career at SHR, and other than some brief rumors about things like him taking an ownership stake in JTG Doherty Racing toward the very end of his career, there were never any serious rumors about him leaving. Well, that's what I have for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I know this was kind of a long one, so if you stuck with me this far, thank you. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe and share with a friend. Also, leave a comment and tell me what you think of these moves for Harvick and which driver you think I should make a missed opportunity video on next. Have a great day.